All right, welcome everybody. We'll call to order the Grand Forks City Council meeting for Tuesday, January 21st. If we get a roll call, please, Maureen.
Weigel. Osowski. Here. Berg. Here. Lensky. Here. Friedels.
Here.
President Sandy. Here. And Veen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, item 1.3, Mayor's announcements. Lots of very, very exciting and great things coming to Grand Forks. Not only, we'll talk about it tonight with the Agristo potato plant, but the Altru Hospital opening up. I got a chance to be there for the ribbon cutting. What a phenomenal facility, and just looking forward to what that's going to bring to our region. I did want to highlight one thing. We did have our last sales tax collections come in, so 2024 is closed out. Definitely a really good month. So we budget for a 3% growth each year, and we actually saw a 9% growth in 2024. So that's phenomenal. As you look at the compounding interest going forward, as you look at a 9% number versus a 3, it makes a lot of things go better into the future. But I think the biggest positive is those are taxable sales in the community. That means that we're business is humming, the economy is doing well, and I think that's a good number when you can beat inflation handily like we have. So very exciting. That's all I got for Mayor's announcements. So we'll move on to 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations.
2.1 is a legislative update.
Mr. Bernstrom.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We are just starting now week 3 of the legislative session. They've only gavelled in, I believe, 6 days total, so it's a total of 80 days. So a lot of work ahead. Just wanted to give you an update. There's lots of talk of property tax, lots of talk of there's multiple bills in there. I think we've identified what will be the vehicle that will have some, whether it's property tax reform, credits, all the above. And I believe that's House Bill 1176. This is the Governor Armstrong, during his address, presented his property tax plan. That's this bill. And we've been following this bill. There's property tax credits, the primary resident tax credit, taking it from the legacy fund. There's lots of good things in here. We do, not really a concern, it's just a question. There's a 3% cap year to year on financially and taxes collected within the bill. If you take a look at your screen, and Maureen can talk more about this, we pretty much fall within that. But there is just a question, Maureen, if you will, on what will that do with our bonding? Right.
Mayor Buczynski, President Sandy, members of the council. So I'm still going to get into the nuts and the bolts and detail of the bill, but what I can tell you is the mayor had asked for this graphic to put together. So when we talk about the 3% cap, generally I wouldn't like to have any caps put on. I want to be able to manage our operations. But when I look at a 10-year history, I guess it makes me feel better with that 3% number. There's just two times in the last 10 years where we've been over 3%. This is when you take out growth and just look at valuation. This is how we look. So we've averaged over 10 years 1.95%. I think what they've done in the bill to help with concerns like I have had in the past with that cap is a 5-year rollover. You can bank it if you're under 3% one year and use it in the year that year. So in this history, we would have been fine because we would have been able to bank and then use it. So I just wanted to give you a little historic information on that. To Mr. Bernstrom's point, one of the things I'm just waiting to get clarification on from bond attorneys is just with the bonding and special assessments and how we back our special assessment bonds with property tax and how that's impacted with this bill. So I'm just waiting for some clarification on that.
This House Bill 1176 has already been heard in committee. They haven't voted on it yet, but we'll follow that one as it goes through. A couple other bills. This week, House Bill 1332. That's the bill that is addressing ag facilities and having a state incentive program through the Department of Agriculture. What it is it's starts as a loan, and as a facility is built and it meets certain criteria and becomes operational, that loan becomes forgiven. Again, that's through the Department of Ag. State of North Dakota, this is a new program. So this is something that is new to the state of North Dakota. Use the term tool in the toolbox when it comes to looking to bring in large facilities, businesses in North Dakota. This bill is going to be in committee on Thursday. Mr. Phelan and Mr. Buchansky, I believe you've been asked to be at that committee meeting as well on Thursday. And then one of our priorities was our public transportation is funded federally, locally, and also by the state. And the smallest portion of that funding comes from the state. So Fargo, Grand Forks, Bismarck has had concerns with that state portion of that funding mechanism. Frankly, locally, we've had to pick that up to make things work. So Senate Bill 2254 has been introduced. It has some one-time funding for fixed public transportation routes, and then also has a study in it to study, going forward, what's the best way to address public transportation funding from the state aspect. With that, those are the three bills really wanted to address today. As I talked to you guys last week, we were just under 500 bills had been filed. When I checked this morning, it was just short of 1,000. So deadline for the House was yesterday. Deadline for the Senate is next Monday. And then we just keep going day by day. Open to any questions.
Yeah,
Any questions for Mr. Burnstrom? Yes.
Sorry,
Ms. Osowski,
I have
please.
one. Are we following HB 1208 at all, or can we start following that one?
1208. Again, I've read through 966
Right.
bills. Can you give me a little? Which one
the
is that one
context?
pertaining to?
It's the one with foreign land ownership.
There's a few bills regarding foreign land ownership. There's more than just the one. So
Okay.
we are following those, yes.
Okay, all of them?
All the ones that I found, yep. There's about 3 or 4.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Burnstrom?
Mayor Butchen, I don't recall if you said this, but the state
Oh,
water
thank
bill
you.
is up
Okay.
also, so we have a keen interest on that. That's up on Tuesday, we think. We'll be there for that, the mayor and I and others, and that's where we get a lot of our water supply funding and also the Red River Valley water supply funding. So we anticipate being there and testifying on next week, Tuesday also.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you.
And if anyone's available, we are leaving at 4:30 a.m. tomorrow. So if anyone wants to ride with us at Bismarck, we'll swing by your house and grab you. So no takers. All right. Mr. Veen, you want to come? All right.
Yeah, so one of the questions on that is bonding. I don't know
Correct.
where we are or what's happening with respect to bonding for water projects.
Mayor Bochansky and Councilmember Veen, there's ongoing discussions regarding that at this point in time with the appropriation shares, but there's been no determination at this time.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's one thing we have been in support of and that we would support it. Apparently it wasn't in the governor's budget, but it has been discussed on both the House and the Senate side. So,
You are correct. Yeah, I think more to come. I suspect it'll be one of those last things they'll do. And I know they got other things they want to bond for over time. And so I suspect it's how much bonding capacity they'll have.
thanks.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Burnstrom? All right. Thank you for your time and your work. All right.
2.2 is the wastewater treatment plant update.
Ms. Parvey, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. This evening, we just wanted to provide you an update on a project we've been working on. As you recall, we began some construction in the fall of 2023 already, and we're ongoing. So I did ask Darren Figstead with PKG as well as Madison Albrights, to come and talk to you tonight. The project itself actually is a parallel treatment system. We're actually in the process of building a fine screen building, a secondary treatment, and then a membrane system as well. And so this new project will allow us to have an additional 5 million gallons a day of treatment. That plan was approved by the state of North Dakota with DEQ. That was a planning project that we had worked on to make sure that we had enough growth for residential and industrial. The project was also carefully created so that we could have that expansion opportunity as well to another 7.5 MGD a day. So tonight we're just going to show you some pictures and be available to answer questions that you may have as well. So I'll invite Darren and Maddie up.
Darren and Maddie, please.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thank you, Melanie. So, we're here to talk about that exciting project west of town at the wastewater plant, right? So anyway, as Melanie said, so the project was set up in 2 phases, all right? So phase 1 was all the work that we were going to focus on, the improvements for the existing plant, all right? And phase 2, I'm going to talk about phase 1, Maddie will address phase 2. Phase 2 is the addition. So the phase 1 project basically was approved. Project cost at about a little over 11.4 million, which also includes the engineering side of it, so the construction and the engineering as well. Presently, that phase 1 project's about 99% complete. We're actually working on punch list items right now, and they're soon to be completed. Upgrades to the existing plant. Now, this plant, if you remember, was built back in early 2000s. I want to say 2001, 2003, somewhere in there, it went online. So a lot of the equipment in that existing facility has been compromised due to just the conditions and the atmosphere and that type of thing. So it's been operating for well over 20 years. So what we focused on was the design included like a new overhead bridge crane in an area that would allow the operators to be more efficient in their operation, be safer when they do maintenance on certain areas. So there were new pumps and flow control gates that were installed in the distribution building. There again, just equipment that was at the end of its useful life. There's several areas where sludge piping and valves were removed and replaced. And then a number of areas where new metal staircases, handrails, that type of thing was installed, primarily for better access to certain areas and to provide better safe access to those areas. You can see on the picture there that the screw conveyor, there was a new screw conveyor that was installed. That's in the Headworks building. That basically allows the grit to go from the basin into a dumpster, and then it gets hauled off. Currently, the project is on budget and with plans to be completed by sometime in March of 25. There was some additional scope that was added. So in that original contract value of about 11.4 million, there was an allowance of 250,000 for contractor contingency and 250,000 for owner contingency. Presently, we have exhausted about 220,000 of that. It was all in added value items, such as during the demolition of certain areas, we discovered that certain coatings had been compromised, so those coatings were repaired. Extra flow control gate was added in the distribution building. There were additional gate actuators throughout the plant that needed to be replaced just due to the use over the years. And then a number of improvements with lighting, ventilation, unit heaters, controls, and panels. A large part of this project did include electrical and mechanical improvements, rooftop units, makeup air units. Again, that was all the original equipment that had to be replaced due to poor operations. So that pretty much covers it, I guess, Maddie.
Yep.
So if you want to take 2.
Yeah, I can move on to phase 2. So the project, as Melanie mentioned, started in fall of 2023. We're currently on track for our completion date of late 2026. Our project value is roughly 86 million, and right now we are built out about 42% complete. To date, we have completed excavation of around 30,000 cubic yards of site material that will be utilized for backfill of the structures. We've spun 350 helical piers to an average depth of around 115 feet for the deep foundation systems for the facilities. And to date, we've poured about 7,000 cubic yards of concrete. So we've had a very busy year. So safety is the utmost priority here at PKG. We're proud to say that we've worked around 47,000 man hours on the project to date with 0 lost time incidents. So something we're very, very proud of. We've mobilized an electrician and a plumber for the project. They're working on their underground scopes right now. One thing we wanted to note, a highlight of our summer, we only had 1 overnight concrete pour. We started at 2 a.m. and finished around 9 a.m. We poured 900 yards overnight, and it was the base slab for the MBR facility. So very excited about that one. Next, we've got a couple of time lapses of our progress so far. Hopefully they work with me here. Okay. So before we wrap, I just want to thank the city of Grand Forks for the opportunity. It's been a great project so far. Also want to thank AE2S. They've been a great partner to our team, not only during the design phase, but during construction as well. So with that, we can offer any tours probably in a couple of months when it's a little bit warmer. You guys are all welcome. So just coordinate through Melanie and we'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, Melanie, you have anything else you want to add now? I guess I just wanted to say, thank you for the work on this, with the brand new, at the water treatment plant, not quite brand new, but pretty close to brand new, and then the wastewater treatment plant. I mean, we're going to have some amazing infrastructure that's going to last us, the next 30 years and put us in a really good shape, really great shape, not only residentially, industrial, but to try to grow the city. So thanks for your work on that. Any questions? Mr. Veen, you got any questions?
I'm shocked.
All right. Well, I guess you're off the hook. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's it for item 2. Item 3, public hearings and second reading of ordinances. There are none, so move on to item 4, citizen comments as they relate to action items. Any comments this evening, Ms. Lundmark? All right. Move on to 5, action items. We've got 5.8 and 5.9 pulled. Any other items council would like pulled for further discussion?
5.7, please.
5.7.
I'd like 5.8, which you already pulled, and 5.10, please.
Okay. Mr. Weigel, anything that you'd like pulled online? Just wanted to give you the chance as well.
No, thank you.
All right. All right, Ms. Storstad, then we'll be looking for a motion to approve items 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, 5.11, and 5.12. I get a motion for approval for the council. We got a motion, President Sani, second from Ms. Berg. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. That motion carries unanimously. So we got 5.7 through 5.10, Ms. Storstad.
5.7, professional services for Phase 1 Downtown Gateway and Greenway Project 8525.
Thank you. I know we got Melanie here as well, but
This is real easy. I'm going to move approval, Mayor. I'm really looking forward to having some new and exciting features in our downtown. The question I have is related to how we're going to pay for it. Ms. Storstad, can you, at some point in the future, take a little bit of look at what is it, rather than paying back over time out of growth fund, can you analyze whether we have the money just to pay for it with growth fund dollars up front? That's all I'm looking for, and I don't need to know that tonight.
Yeah, very good. We had a plan to over time, but I will definitely take a look at that.
Thank you.
Yep.
all right.
I second with a comment.
Please.
Once again, I'm looking forward to the Greenway project. I do hope, though, that we keep in mind the maintenance costs going into this with the buildings and, the cleanup after, since we're building it on that side of the flood wall. I just want to be mindful, but I second.
All right, any further comments on item 5.7? We got a motion and a second. All right, seeing no further comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
5.8, Cirrus Working Draft Development Memorandum of Understanding.
Mr. Phelan.
Yep. Mayor Buchansky and members of the City Council, there were a few questions last week, and I've got some answers, and I also have some folks online. We have Dante Tomasoni is online, and he's the Director of Corporate Affairs, and he's going to respond to Councilmember Osowski had questions on the CFIUS, and so he's able to answer that. The other questions that have come up, and again, Steve Thomas is here on behalf of Cirrus too, and he's the site director for our Grand Forks facility. But there were questions regarding, number one, are there any current tax incentives on the with Cirrus, and there are none. I did attach what the value of the buildings are, and so currently the buildings are valued at about, the building itself is valued at $12.4 million, and there are no current pilot incentives or tax on that currently right now. Again, the project is a $10.5 million estimated 30,000 square foot expansion, $1.5 million renovation of the existing building, and $2.5 million of capital equipment. So it's a $14.5 million estimated redevelopment. We mentioned last week there's 485 employees they anticipate an expansion of employees, which is exciting, about 30 to 45. And then as part of this pilot, there's the promise within the next 5 years that there'd be a $60,000 to $90,000 square foot expansion onto this particular building. So that's the other exciting part. We talked about wanting to keep this component part of Cirrus in Grand Forks, and so this will really keep all of this in Grand Forks, and looking out over the next 5 years, there'll be additional expansions. We talked last week also, we were competing with a couple other locations, and working with Cirrus Aircraft, there was about a $500,000 gap. And so we are offering it currently at this time, instead of a 5-year 100% exemption, our pilot, to go to a 10-year 100%, and that essentially closes that $500,000 gap, and got Cirrus to say that we will expand not only with the initial 30,000 square foot building, but the additional 60 to 90,000 square foot building. So that's what we're here in front of you. There will also be some growth fund initiatives too from Bank of North Dakota financing that our growth fund will share in. So that's the other parallel path that we're on at this point in time. I think the other exciting part of this project that we talked about last week is this expansion does not require any additional city expense. It's an infill development, so there's no city infrastructure costs. There's no personnel costs, whether that's public safety or public works or water works. There's no additional cost on that. So whatever happens on the property tax side, and primarily for our local government entities, it's all a win for them. As we move this forward, so we're going to grow the tax base. So with that, I also want to mention, and I know Mr. Thomas is too humble to say this, but Cirrus is really involved in a lot of things in the community. And just one note, they're part of the. I was just on a call yesterday with. We have a really tremendous Great Northern Robotics that's held at the Alaris Center. And you should know that Cirrus Aircraft is one of the big benefactors, not only their time and their investment in that. And so I even saw Steve on a call yesterday on Martin Luther King Day of participating and helping Grand Forks teams to be more competitive with robotics. Just simple things that they do in our community that go sometimes unnoticed. So with that, I'd hand it off to Dante just on the specific thing with CFIUS is that they are under guidance, and I think he's here to provide better words than what we could last week to let everyone know here kind of where their status is. So with that, Dante.
I've unmuted myself, but I don't know if a video option starts. There we go, start video.
We hear you well, Dante. Thank you.
All right. Good. Well, thank you, everyone. And I was told earlier today I need to apologize for my attire as being too trendy when I intentionally made it just to stay warm on the frigid -28 morning we had. So I hope everybody is staying warm there. And so to address kind of our review, essentially the background of Cirrus is, and I don't know how much the message gets across, but 100% of our labor is provided in the United States. 96% of our parts and suppliers are all American made. And so the other 4% actually comes from Europe. Cirrus is a company founded in Bearville, Wisconsin in a small barn. We expanded into Duluth, into Grand Forks, and we value our relationship with Grand Forks more than anything. And I can't help but every time we talk about the national security issues is to remind everyone how American-made Cirrus Aircraft is. And we wouldn't be able to do it without the contribution of the 480 employees that we have in Grand Forks, and the support of the community there as well. And so as we've discussed, Cirrus, when it was bought back in roughly 2011 by a Chinese company, we were for sale. And we were for sale due to a lot of investment in our Vision Jet, which is now the best-selling single-engine jet in the world. And frankly, no American companies wanted to buy us. The only thing at this point that remains not American about Cirrus is simply the ownership, and that is when it was bought. And when the purchase happened, we were forced to go under CFIUS review, as well as enter into a national security agreement. And so CFIUS is the Committee on Foreign Investment, and our national security agreement is reviewed annually. We have locations all over the United States, and no operational facilities in China. My favorite comment, put lightly, was by one of our Tennessee legislators who said, they can't send a rivet overseas without telling the federal government about it. Now, it's my best Southern accent, and that is the truth, though. All of our information, any data sharing is strictly prohibited to head overseas. Really the only thing that ever ends up overseas is a piece of paper. We've reinvested almost 100% of our profits back in the United States, including this project. With that, Mayor Bochensky and Councilman, I yield to any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Tomasoni. Appreciate you being there. And yeah, we're okay with your trendy outfit today. It's also very chilly up here. So with that, any comments or any questions for Mr. Tomasoni? Ms. Osowski, please.
Yeah. So Cirrus is owned by AVIC, correct? AVIC?
Mayor Bochensky, Councilwoman, yes, it is.
Okay. And that is part of the Chinese military, correct? Or has connections with the Chinese military?
It is, Councilwoman.
And are there not U.S. sanctions against the Chinese military?
I'm not aware of what sanctions have been applied to the Chinese military, but the relationship with Cirrus and AVIC, you are correct, Councilor, is a military. It is a part of the Chinese military arm. Cirrus is identified. It is investigated, and our national security agreement is executed as a separate entity, and it is also along with the knowing relationship with AVIC.
All right. I guess I don't see how we should approve a tax break for them when their parent company has sanctions against them by the U.S. government. I don't understand why we have sanctions on them and yet we're giving them a tax break to stay here. Also, another question I have is who owns the land that Cirrus is currently on?
We purchased the land, I forget, Keith knows which year, as well as the buildings.
And the expansion, where's that land coming from?
It's the same land that Cirrus already currently owns.
Okay, so Cirrus owns all of the land for your current facility and for your expansion, so you will not be purchasing any additional land?
No, Councilor.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Bochensky and Councilmember Osowski, as you recall, I'm going to say a few years ago, the city sold the remaining portion of the building, I think for around $1.8 million. Included in that sale was adjacent property that the city owned that was incorporated into that sale from the city of Grand Forks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Phelan or Mr. Tomasoni? All right, we have any motions or further discussion? President Sandy, please.
I'll make a general comment that Cirrus is one of the best employers that we have in our community. I do and have always appreciated how open and honest that they are and their willingness to, for example, invite people in for tours and, as Todd was mentioning, sponsor events in our community. And ultimately, I think that they do have our best interests in mind. And I for one, and of course, I know many people that work at Cirrus here and in Duluth, and they're full-blood Americans, just like everyone sitting up here. And so I appreciate all of them and what they do for not only our community, but our country. And so I will move approval, Mayor.
Got a motion to approve from President Sandy. Do we have a second? We got a second from Ms. Lunsky. Any further discussion? Mr. Friedhoff,
Yeah,
please.
just a real quick question, just in terms of labor. So is this, it's probably mostly manufacturing, obviously, but is there, you talked about robotics. I was curious, is there some engineering component to this too, as far as staffing and critical skills for the community?
Mr. Thomas, please.
Mayor, council, thank you. Yes, so this expansion will enable us to add some automation to certain departments that we're lacking, quite frankly, with the space that we currently have. So there will be some automation, robotics, as well as an increase in overall direct labor headcount.
Great, thank you.
All right.
I have one more question,
Yeah, Ms.
if that's
Osowski,
all right.
please.
How much money, maybe a percentage you could give me, does Cirrus give back to AVIC?
It's less than 1%, Counselor.
Less than 1% goes back?
And until I think 2 years ago, before I joined, it had been $0 was the answer.
Thank you.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1 with Osowski dissenting. Thank you, Mr. Thomasoni and Mr. Thomas.
Thank you.
5.9, Agristol Working Draft Development Memorandum of Understanding.
Mr. Phelan, you taking this one as well?
Yes, I will. I'll join up with our growers here too. Just as a overall reminder, we had some questions on this, so I'm here to follow up on some of those answers to those questions. Again, this is, the Grand Forks portion of this project is the processing facility itself. That's the $450 million facility that we're speaking of. There's another additional $150 million off on the farm improvements that are needed, mainly that storage, because we're going to enter a new potato into our community from Europe. And so there'll be some additional storage requirements that'll be on the farm. And so the other thing I really want to emphasize is this was, and we emphasized this last week, is this is really a grower-driven development. And they brought this to Grand Forks. And again, the reason why they're looking to North Dakota and Grand Forks versus Wisconsin is because of our soil, because of the potatoes that we can grow here. And so the other portions of this really are the incentive part to make us more competitive with Wisconsin in various component parts. This has really been a partnership between our federal government, mainly through Senator Hoeven, our state government, mainly through our Governor Armstrong and Commissioner Gehring, and our North Dakota legislature, and then finally with local government, we've been helping on the local side. So it's really been a terrific partnership. We have proposed a 90%, I should say a 10% pilot that will come back to the city over 20 years, and that 10% pilot yields about $500 and some thousand over that time period. So it's $500,000 more than we have currently. When the 20 years is up, our estimate with growth is the total taxable value will be $3.7 to $3.8 million. So that's quite a significant investment that we're moving forward with. One of the advantages the city of Grand Forks has is that we also collect sales tax. So you can tell through construction and through once this operation gets up that we'll be the great benefactors of some of the sales tax revenue that will likely come in for this particular project. The other thing the Mayor Bochensky asked me is, how much additional cost will this be for the city of Grand Forks from an operations perspective? Again, we've already annexed the primary site that we're looking at, which is the Fufang site. So we're already plowing the streets. We're putting the water mains in. And it's within our Columbia Road Fire Station area. So there's not going to be any significant increase in costs for the city of Grand Forks. We do review environmentally all of our industries in town. So but with this will just be one more industry that we'll do. So it'll be very incremental costs that will be added onto the city of Grand Forks. So we won't have to worry about that as we move. And again, we've already probably put in about a third to half of the infrastructure in this on this particular location at this time, really getting ready for an industry like Agristo to come forward. And again, you have to imagine this is probably a little bit larger facility than what J.R. Simplot is already operating in Grand Forks, but with much less water needs because it's a modern facility. And so one of the things they want to do in these facilities is use as little water as possible, use as little power as possible, because then you can have per unit, you can make more money. So really, that's the intent. So I mentioned it's about 700,000 gallons per day of water and wastewater, which is much less than other industries that we already have in our community. With that, I asked Mr. Shields to come because with a grower or two, because some of the growers went over to Belgium. I think that some of them just got back. And so I wanted Gary to give us an update from a grower perspective on some of the follow-up from last week, and then also provide a perspective on what some of the growers saw when they went to Belgium and met with Agristo and the farmers and that sort of thing, give you a firsthand look of what was seen over there. So with that, Gary, if you wouldn't mind coming up.
Mr. Shields, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate us being here, I guess. I'm here tonight with Brad Nielsen. Brad is a potato farmer from Hoople, North Dakota. Brad just got back from Belgium, and maybe if he could just take a second to just talk about that, maybe questions. We'll be very brief. As far as updates go, I'd like to be very transparent, as we've indicated in our publications, and to the public and to the council. I did get a question from a very close friend that's been very involved with our city over the years regarding what's going on with CFIUS. And I'm not here to speak on behalf of Agristo. I know a lot of council members are waiting anxiously for Agristo to make their presence. But I want to be fully transparent that when that individual reached out to me, I said, have the Pentagon call me. Let me address the public. So when I get asked questions, which I do daily about CFIUS, I'm not here to talk for Agristo, but I'm here to talk on behalf of all of our growers that have worked hard to get this project here. I did speak with Dan Burke from the Pentagon. Because of the fact that there has been no declaration submitted at this time, that he could speak freely with me regarding what he believes will happen with the CFIUS going forward. So that allows me to address the public on our conversation. Very positive conversation. I believe Mr. Burke potentially is listening this evening, but I want to be totally transparent regarding any conversations that are happening so that I can address the public. And of course, I will be at that meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and I will be before legislature. And all of these questions came up last week when I was in Bismarck for 3 days at our North Dakota Ag Coalition, and I have to be prepared. So thank you for allowing me to share that with the council this evening.
Mr. Nielsen, how was the trip to Belgium? You came back.
It was great, Mayor.
All right, good to hear.
I want to tell you, my brother told me, he said that Brendan's going to be on with Heitkamp. And we spent a lot of miles in a bus over there. And it so happened to be, we got you for the bus load. They all heard you in your interview with Joel.
Oh, perfect.
Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and City Council people. Just a little update of what we saw over there in Belgium. They had a pretty vigorous schedule for us, and we kept to it. But the most interesting, I think, for you folks is probably our two of the plants that we saw. The first morning we were there, we saw their plant in Nazareth, Belgium. It's where they make their specialty products, hash browns. They've got a frozen mashed potato product and an onion ring, a potato and onion ring product, several products. They said, we'll make what anybody wants us to make. So our first tour was of that plant, and quite impressive, very large, very clean. Walking in there early in the morning, they run 24/7, absolutely no odor to anything. And going through it, you see their people. In all of the meetings we've had in the last 2.5 to 3 years, their first questions were, is there an opportunity for us here? Are you growers interested in more volume? And of course, everybody, potato growers, yes, everybody wants more. But he said, would you accept our culture, being a foreign company? And they said, they explained a little bit about their company and their philosophy. And their philosophy was, our employees are number one, our growers are number two, and our customers are number three. And he said, we don't waver from that. And going over there, visiting with the people that were working in the plant, you could see it. You see the pride in what they're doing. And I think their average age of employment over there was 34 years. And most of the people who were in there, they didn't quit. They moved up the ladder a little bit. The plants were very automated. Their packaging line was all robotic, from where it came off of the end of their freezers, packaged, robotically stacked on pallets, and a pallet machine automatically took it up into their freezers. Very impressive. And then that afternoon, we took a drive to a little town called Welsbeckie. I don't know how to speak Dutch, but something like that. And that was their French fry plant. There they processed about 100 semi-loads of potatoes a day, every day of the week. It was big. They had an expansion project going there. When that project was done, they will be the largest single-site French fry plant in the world. And their headquarters was also there. They took us there first, gave us a meal, visit, and a little short program and video, and then took us on a plant tour there. Again, extremely automated, extremely clean, wonderful place. And the rest of our week was spent visiting some breeding companies and lots of farmer visits and things that you guys probably aren't too interested in, but very interesting to us, so.
Do you have any potatoes when they made that meal for you?
They did. We had all of their products. It was interesting. Their headquarters was built, I believe, in 2000 or 2001. And it's fantastic. I would encourage all of you to look up Agristo's website and go through there. It is pretty impressive. But you walk up these great big cement stairs, and there's like a dining area for their people. A lot of them bring a sack lunch for dinner. That's where they eat. And off to the side was another meeting room and coffee machines and that sort of thing. But they also had a little bit of a bar in there. They call it the Agristo bar or something like that. But they said there's not a bunch of pubs or cafes right close to them, being in an industrial park. But he said every Friday we invite our employees to stop in here after work or during different shifts and just have a beer or just settle in. They said it's been a fantastic thing.
I've been trying to get Todd to do that at the city for years.
It works over there.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, I don't know, if you got any other questions, I won't bore you with the rest of our trip, but
Well, thank you for being here. I think that really means a lot to us, and I'm sure it means a lot to the growers and taking the trip over there. So we just really appreciate your presence here tonight. And I won't, you want to ask him a question? I wasn't going to bother
No,
him with
I
a
was going to
question,
make a
but-
comment and then motion approval.
Okay.
But I talked to Mr. Shields this week, and it was a pleasure. I appreciate that you guys are doing the right thing and reaching out to CFIUS. I think that's really important, and I think that goes a long way. I do want to hear it out of Agristo's mouth, though, because obviously you cannot speak for the company. And so I look forward to meeting them next month. And yeah, hopefully everything works out. And I'm glad you had a great time in Belgium and a good experience. And I move approval.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second? We got a second from Ms. Lunsky. So Ms. Lunsky moves and Ms. Berg seconds. Sorry. Too many Trishas and Pollocks up here, so, oh well, we'll sort it out. Any further discussion or comments for this motion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
thank you.
5.10, final approval of Danks 4-3 subdivision.
I'm ready to vote. I guess my only comment on it is I refuse to keep kicking the can down the road with our aquatic center. I still am, I know we were presented something and there were a lot of issues with it, but I don't feel that a lot of people are happy with that on the council. And I also haven't seen anything that fits within our budget. And so I'm ready to vote. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion for item 5.10?
I'll motion to approve.
Got a motion approved from Ms. Berg. Do we have a second? Second from Mr. Friedhoffs.
Quick comment.
President Sandy, please.
This is just for the replat of the lots, right?
Yes, that's
We're
correct.
not approving site plans or anything else. So
No, I think, and Mr. Phelan, maybe you can correct me, but are we expecting, obviously the bids, this is a process, this is very normal, this is how it normally goes. As you work through the process, you get tighter with your budget. When do we expect to have the architects and the CMAR back in front of us?
Mayor Buczynski and members of City Council, we're going to get an update on this Friday, and Councilmember Vian and Council President Sandy have been participating in that, so we're going to get some updates on that. The other thing that, and we're doing this primarily for Councilmember Vian, but regarding the Pollard Center and, what that cost is, and if we looked at two comparable sites, so we have asked our third-party estimator to look at what the Pollard would cost in today's dollars versus, the designs that you've seen with the, metal prefab buildings. So we're looking at that. We're leading the underground infrastructure and all the site support stuff, so we'll get some updates on that. And so I think once we get through this Friday and some additional estimating next week, I would anticipate in February that you're going to start seeing some numbers, some comparables. And we always talked about coming up in March, there's going to be some decision-making regarding, the first phase bidding versus, coming back later in the second phase. But you're going to start seeing that in February, March. And what we didn't want to do, Councilmember Osowski, we don't want to frustrate you. So we don't want to bring back things just to demonstrate we're doing something, but they're not quite done, because that just leads to frustration. We get that everybody wants it on budget, they want it on time, they want it perfect. And so we know the standard that we're trying to work on, and the team's involved in that. The CMAR's involved, the design architects, everyone's of that mindset, and you're going to start seeing something sooner rather than later.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. Any further comments?
Just,
Mr. Veen, please.
just one thing, and it's more process related. The design development documents are being prepared by the design team with their engineers. And when that is complete, we will have another estimate completed and to be able to identify more accurately, because of better designs, what that anticipated cost is going to be. And that'll help, I think, as we refine the total package that comes back, because we need to bring a project that's in on budget. And this is a part of that process to do it. So I feel like the process is working well. I appreciate the fact that you're taking that look again at the Pollard Center to have that comparison. If that does come out differently, we will have to address that. But the process is proceeding. And I think the desire that I've had is to make sure we are able to answer questions from the council here, whatever they may be. So I would look forward to hearing more if there's things that we're still looking to get answers for, if you don't feel comfortable with it, that we try to get that as a part of this process.
Mayor Buczynski, I think we've got most of your concerns, but if you have something you want to do, because along the way we've added things or we reanalyzed because people brought it up, so we're going to try to bring back the capital project and let you know where it's at. Maureen and her team will look on the funding part of this, from the bonding and interim bank financing. We've talked about that. That's another component part. And then Dan and I, we've worked on the operation agreement with the Park District. And so we're pretty far along in all those things. We just got to now start bringing those back here in the next couple months.
All right, and I'm sure the bond council will like that 9% sales tax growth, because that's Alaris capital and Ultra Sports capital going forward. So any further comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 6-1 with Osowski dissenting. All right, that's it for action items. Move on to item 5, information items.
Actually, 6.1, investment portfolio
Actually, that's a
management summary as of December
6.
31st.
Thank you. Continue.
All right, 6.2, statement of changes in cash balance as of November 30th.
Thank you.
And finally, 6.3 is Project 8937, request for qualifications of consulting engineer services.
Mayor, comment on 6.3?
Please, Mr. Sandy.
A couple things. I think nobody is going to be surprised when I say I don't like the process that we use. I, for one, I have no conclusive evidence that we aren't getting the best value. My gut tells me we aren't getting the best value when we have a list of qualified vendors and choose one and then pay their rack rates rather than putting these services out for RFP. I think we should do away with this process and put all of these options out for RFP and have our local vendors bidding, because we can see we know who they are. They've already applied to work with us and responded to this RFQ. And so why is it that we don't now go out for RFP and have these folks trying to bid the lowest bid? And the reason I say that I think my gut tells me we can do better, because at least two of the firms that are on our list have complained to me because they're not getting chosen enough, and they think that their prices would be better than the other people that we're choosing. And so I don't think this is magic, right? And I'm not saying what we're doing is wrong. I just don't think we're getting the best value for the dollars that we're spending. What I also don't want to do is bog us down in paperwork and have projects that take forever just to get through the bidding process. So I don't know what's right. I'm just saying this process frustrates me. And I think if we could, on some occasion, just for a sanity check, put some of these things out for RFP, maybe not all of them, just occasionally, and see where people come back, I think that might, at least in my mind, I can feel comfortable that we're actually getting good value rather than paying whomever rack rate.
Mr. Phelan, I guess I can add just a couple of questions. How long has the city done this process, and what was sort of the genesis of going to that? And maybe in a future day we can review sort of which items are going to that, which items are going to RFP, so we have a little bit more information. Maybe start with the first one of the genesis and how many years it's been.
Mayor Buczynski and members of City Council. So this list that you see in front of you, we've done that for quite some time, and this was really a kind of prescribed list of qualified, mainly engineering consultants that we could, if there's an issue that comes up, we could pick them off the list. And generally what we do is we pick the best firm and then we negotiate a fee with them under a contract. But this list is generally for the kind of more routine things. And as we know, because we've had a few battles here, if it's a major project, we do a separate request for qualifications just because it's separate and distinct. So we use this list for day-to-day, more routine things, but then we also do go out for RFQs on special projects like the Ultra Sports Complex. And I think what might be helpful is maybe with Mr. Gosted's assistance, I know you, is that we should come back with a briefing about how we're supposed to do things per state statute. So there are prescribed ways. You can about imagine each legislative session, consultants, contractors, all trying to protect, their industry, right? So there are prescribed ways as a public entity that we have to do things, whether we're in Bismarck or Grand Forks. And I think it would be helpful to me too to maybe kind of go through what the state statute says that we have to do under public bidding and public selection processes. And we'll do that because I do understand and appreciate Council President Sandy's frustration too.
Would it be possible to have some type of cap, like per project, or some cumulative cap before it would come back to us, just so we feel like it, sometimes you got 15 things that are, maybe a smaller thing, but that can add up to a lot in the end. So maybe some ongoing totals or something like that would be, I think, helpful. Is that kind of at least something to start with, and then at least see where it plays out? Okay.
And I would just say, the theory we have is we want to pick the best professional that we are able to for a project, and then we negotiate the best contract or best fee. Because I've been around here long enough, there is no glory in working with people that aren't the best, because it ends up sometimes costing you and redoing a lot of things too. So you should know we are trying to pick the best firms, and we are trying to negotiate the best agreement to bring back to you.
That's true. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Todd. And everything you're saying, I believe you. You're not wrong. I do. I believe you 100%. But we now have a list in front of us of the people that are qualified to do all these different types of projects. And so if we get bidders back that don't qualify according to our own format, we don't have to take their bid.
Yep.
So we know who's qualified. Why don't we go out for RFP and get the lowest price?
That's a very good point, Council President Sani. So like these firms, say we got a group of 3 firms and there's a project and we want to go off this list, generally what happens is they ask all 3 firms to interview for this specific project. So there's usually an interview process that's set up, and then they pick the best firm. But then again, we have this 2-part process where we pick the best firm, but then we negotiate with that firm on a fee and a contract that generally is over $50,000, so it's over our limit of being able to approve them. So that shows up with you guys, if you will. If it's something small that we can do, we do that. But generally, we do try to interview even people off this list. Hey, that there's these 3 firms that are interested in doing water supply or something like that. We generally interview those firms to see who would be best for a specific project.
So this would only apply to contracts less than 50,000, anything above 50,000?
We use
is
it
gonna come
both
here.
ways. We use it both ways.
Okay. You got
One
President Sanders?
one last
Please.
point, and I'm not gonna, I don't need to spend any more time on this. People understand where I'm coming from. Under analysis and finding of fact, the very last bullet, at the city's discretion, these SOQs may be utilized throughout 27 and 28 as well. Who's the city, who has that discretion?
I think the city administration, because it's like a 2-year agreement, but it can be extended.
Right, so, okay, so we're talking 4 years now, we're tying into these qualifications, and we're gonna be gone, Mr. Phelan's the one that decides. Okay, as long as everyone understands that.
Mr. Phelan might be gone.
Yeah, right, man, who knows? It's true, but,
Should you live so long, Mr. Phelan?
Exactly. The reason I'm questioning that is there are other local large architectural firms that aren't on this list, and I don't know if they just forgot and didn't turn in their, and so all of a sudden they're not eligible because they're not in our paperwork. So that's why I'm thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't give administratively the option to go back, because maybe in 23 months, somebody else will want to get back in.
I agree, because you see that in particular with architects, some submit and some don't. Some don't see the advertisement for whatever reason, don't submit. But just so you know, that this is a standard list, but I think on those projects that are really highlighted and people really want to compete with, we do generally go out and re-advertise those special for those projects. So if firms don't get on the list, they have another bite at the apple.
Okay, thank you, Todd, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, any further questions on that? All right, Ms. Storstad, we'll move on to 7, approval of minutes and bills.
7.1 minutes from January 6th.
We got a motion to approve from Ms. Osowski. We have a second?
I'll second.
Got a second from Ms. Berg. I'm going to get that one right going forward. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, citizen comments of the general nature. Any comments this evening, Ms. Lundmark? All right, we'll move on. Mr. Phelan, you get the floor again. Any comments this evening?
Mayor Buczynski reminded me that our new police chief, Mr. Jason Friedman's going to start next week, Monday, so he's excited to be here. And the police department has done a great job getting ready for him, starting next week. And also want to thank Interim Chief Love for all that he's done in between. So he's been a terrific. Just so you know, you'll see a new police chief named Mr. Friedman will be here next week, Monday. I want to highlight that. The other thing I want to highlight, Dale Bergman's not here, but he's submitted a letter that he's going to retire in May, and Dale's been here 40 plus years. He started at the airport, and then when it became an airport authority, employees could either stay with the authority or they could come work for the city of Grand Forks. Well, Dale went from being a mechanic at the airport authority, and he came over to the city to be a public transit mechanic, and then he moved from there to transit supervisors and manager, and now director. So he's had a long career with the city of Grand Forks. So he'll be retiring in May. So we'll want to celebrate Dale and his long, great career. here with the city of Grand Forks. And the other thing I just got let know too, I want to recognize, I got a message that Mr. Richard Olick, who was the fire chief for Grand Forks from 1978 to 1999, passed away, and he was 93 years old. He passed away on January 2nd, 2025, and so he was here a couple years while I was still working and retired, and then Chief O'Neill became the fire chief, and now we're blessed to have Chief Lorenz. So I just want to give a shout out to Richard Olick, and I know Ken Vian, back in your day as city engineer, public works director, you worked with Richard Olick, so I just wanted to highlight him this evening. I got a message that he passed away, so thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. We'll move on to mayor and council member comments. Ms. Osowski, any comments this evening?
Yeah, I have a couple. First, I have to say thank you to Dana for bringing up about the qualifications. I look forward to learning more about that and hearing from Mr. Gosted on that, on what we can do. Also, I guess, thank you to Mr. Love for filling in. I'm sure we don't pay you enough, so. And I guess I'm kind of sad to hear that Dale's retiring. I feel like we just started bonding now, and now I'll have to build a new relationship. But anyways, I'm looking forward to a little bit of warmer weather here in Grand Forks. It has been cold, so thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Ms. Berg, any comments?
No, thank you.
All right, Ms. Lunsky. Mr. Friedhoffs.
Yeah, just real quick. So I, over the last couple days, I've had the opportunity to be out in D.C. And met with a bunch of senators and a bunch from other states. And so if you think what we're doing here doesn't leave Little Grand Forks, people, I got a lot of, I've heard you're doing great things out there. So it was really neat to hear senators from Missouri, from Kansas, have all heard about the things that are going on in Grand Forks. So we should be very blessed and very happy for some of the things that are moving forward here. So it was nice to hear.
Thank you, Mr. Friedhoffs. Mr. Veen, any comments this evening?
Nothing additional.
All right. Mr. Weigel, he's still with us? Doesn't look like it. President Sandy.
Thank you, Mayor. Nothing today.
All right. Well, they kind of stole my thunder, but I also wanted to thank Interim Chief Love. I think you've held the seat, kept it warm, done everything we've asked you to, and I think that's about all a person can ask. So job well done. You got your days are numbered now, but you'll still be with us, so that's good. So thank you for that. And, again, a lot of very productive, very promising, growth-oriented things happening in Grand Forks that are going to improve the quality of life, improve wages, improve jobs. I'm just excited to get to be a small part of that with the city council. So thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. And with that, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn if there's anyone on council so wishes to do so. Ms. Osowski motions, Mr. Friedhoffs seconds. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.